Hello and welcome back. So now we're gonna set up what we saw in the previous example for the for our wood here. And before we do that, I want to explain a few things. So I'm gonna dive back in the flip solver, and I'm gonna create that RBD object. And this is what we had our setup done with. It was an RBD object connected to a bullet solver or a rigid body solver set to bullet. And this node is different than what we have used before. And the node that we did use was called RBD packed object. And the difference between this and this is that this one can only import one at a time, one piece of geometry. So if we had thousands of objects, we would need to create an RBD object for each one, and we have to separate each one of them in the SOP. But luckily, we don't do that. We just pack the geometry and give each piece a unique name, and then read that in using an RBD packed object. The bad news is RBD packed object doesn't work with flip, doesn't work nicely, doesn't play nicely with flip. And what we need to do is we need to find an alternative as to how we can import each of these unique pieces into the mesh. Okay, and we're going to do that using something called RBD fractured object. And luckily, this node can do what we need in this case. And this node will be able to reference a geometry, in this case these guys, and then you can tell it to fracture by name, and it will read the attribute name from the points, and based on that create an RBD object for each unique name. So in here, if we look at the geometry spreadsheet in DOPS, right now we have one flip object, and let me put down a merge node and connect the flip solver, and let's look at the result. Step 1 frame. So step 1 frame, and we have one RBD object. Okay, and let me lower the resolution for this guy. And so what we need to do is we need to create an RBD object for each of those pieces, and we're going to browse for the wood here, and we're going to tell it to fracture by name. And now if I connect this guy in here and we step forward, see it created one unique RBD object. It says it's fracture, but it's actually an RBD object, same as the one we just saw. And you can see we've now created this much objects. Unfortunately, this means more data to the DOP to work with, and it's going to be slower, but this is the best way to get RBD interaction with flip. And so I hope that explains this part. So that's why we're going to use this node. And then for the collision, we're going to go under bullet and make sure that we have nice representation of this guy. And luckily enough, we have good collision with this geometry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disable these guys to make faster sim. I'm going to only leave the ground, and then I'm going to make a copy of the source, the one on the back, and I'm going to increase its velocity, and I'm going to disable this expression. I'm going to only use that guy. Okay, and we're going to make a copy of the flip solver itself for the to keep the actually I don't need, we're going to make a copy because I want to change the domain. I want to change these values, but I want to have a backup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to push this down, maybe up a little bit. Or actually I don't care about the pieces on top. I only care about the pieces at the bottom, and I'm actually going to go back to SOPs and remove everything that is on top, just to make it faster. I'm going to select all of them and down a blast node and change it to delete not selected. And now if I dive back, we should have all that, and then I'm gonna turn off collision, and now we have everything set up to work with our emitter, and then it's gonna shoot particles in the right direction. But I'm not seeing the emitter. Oh, because of the $OS, so we have to fix this. Cool, so we have that emitter, and then we have the correct pieces, and let's hit play. Obviously it's not gonna behave as expected. It's gonna do something, but it's not gonna or probably it is working. It's gonna work, but it's not gonna be it's not gonna play nice yet, and it may explode. So what we need to do is we need to find, I think it's working for some reason as expected. So but we still, oh, I see. So right now we're only getting the flip to interact with the RBD. There's no feedback happening, and we need the RBD to affect the flip. And so what we need to do is we need to go back to the volume motion solver and set this to 1. Okay, and I'm going to also check the particle motion, where is it, behavior, use friction and bounce. And I'm gonna hit play, and now it should behave differently. Probably we're not gonna see it, but trust me, there is interaction between the flip and the RBD. And now we have to go back and change the compute mass to do the right thing. So I'm gonna turn off density. I'm gonna set this to 10. We need to find the right balance for the wood, so that it goes a little bit inside the volume, inside the flip, but yet it doesn't penetrate it too much. And I want it to float on top of the flip sim. And I think a value of 10 seems to be working nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the, yep, it's working nicely with these values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the ground, turn back on the ground, and the cathedral destroyed. Okay, even though there is a lot of geometry, but we'll see how that plays. And I'm going to increase the separation, decrease the separation so we have more points. And then I'm going to cache this and do a flipbook and come back in the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.